Be a mind reader is an interesting title for a class. This is really around using tools like the DISC behavioral analysis to help connect with other people. In a sales environment, when we are meeting new clients or new prospective clients, there's a component of mirroring and matching, which is a sales technique that I learned in the early 90s about how you match other people's behaviors, speech patterns, and so that people feel like they're understood. People do business with people they like and trust. And partly we're going to trust people naturally that appear like us as far as our languaging, our body language, how we lean in or lean back, our speed of our speech, and all bunch of different things that have little to do with the actual words coming out of our mouth. And I think it's important to understand that all of us receive information differently. And the DISC behavioral profile is actually a great way to understand how somebody is hardwired and how we can best communicate with them. Communication is not just the message gets sent. It's was the message received? And I think it's a great opportunity for us to make sure that our message is being received because we are speaking the same language, because we are understand how somebody is thinking and processing information. DISC is actually an acronym. It's driver, influencer, systematic, and compliant or conscientious as the behavioral styles that are available out there for the DISC system. There are other programs out there. DISC is just something that I have found very, very valuable. I've been certified to teach the DISC behavioral analysis multiple times and have the opportunity to share this with you now. And it does seem a little bit like you're being a mind reader once you understand some of these things. Okay, there we go. Da Vinci was actually one of my favorite artists from the Renaissance, partly because he was so curious. He would dissect an animal so that he would understand the best way to sculpt it. He wanted to know what was happening on the inside to match the outsides in a sculpture. Da Vinci also had a great understanding of people and observing people and writing about people. And so this idea of understanding, there is a joy of understanding. We've all had those moments where a conflict is resolved because somebody communicated something that was misunderstood or unknown previously. And then it's like, oh, I get it now. And so it's a great opportunity to have that light bulb moment. There is a really interesting concept around our words. Our words have the opportunity to hurt, and our words have the opportunity to heal. So making sure that we are communicating and being healers is a very strong reason to understand the DISC behavioral analysis so we can make sure that we are communicating healing words instead of those hurtful words. The DISC profile is also mentioned in my book, Fortune Cookie Leadership, Chapter 14. So if you have the book, you can take a look in there, and we're going to dive a little bit deeper here today. I want to start off with my story. My story around the DISC behavioral analysis was I was interviewing for a job at a real estate company to get into a leadership role. And the person that was actually doing my DISC analysis with me was reviewing the results of the analysis with me and pointing out some different areas. And some of the things he would say was, it sounds like you like to keep things moving and you're always moving things forward and going at a fairly quick pace. And I apologize that I know I've got to work on slowing down and taking things kind of step by step. And he looked at me and he kind of giggled. I said, also what this analysis says that you struggle a bit with a lot of detail work. And I said, I know, I'm working on that. And I kept apologizing for some of the parts of my behavioral styles that had shown up in the analysis. And finally, he stopped me and he looked at me and he said, you understand that your behavioral profile is that of most Fortune 500 CEOs. You are amazing with who you are and the skills that you have. And that this behavioral style just needs to be put into the right situation where you can thrive. Because this is just who you are. And you are good enough and you are amazing. And that is for all of us. How you show up is amazing. Who you are is amazing. The DISC behavioral analysis just reminds us of these are the areas where we naturally excel. And it also shows the areas where we naturally need to get some support. And sometimes that's support with other people that are strong in the areas where we struggle. And so it's a great opportunity for talking about teams. But the number one thing that I really think about the DISC behavioral analysis is this is just who you are. This is how you show up every day. These are the areas that have worked really well for you. And here's maybe a couple of speed bumps where you may want to take a look and pay attention to those speed bumps so nothing gets broken along the way. The best way for people to discern which of the behavioral profiles most suits them is if you are going to assert yourself, are you more of an ask person or are you more of a tell person? I think about it as like the Law and Order. The detectives are asking questions. Hey, where were you? What you were doing? Who was there? Asking questions. Well, why did that happen? And that's how they assert their authority, is by asking a lot of questions. The tell people in a Law and Order episode are typically the ones that are the judges. This is admissible, this is not. They are the tell people. The attorneys are the tell people. They're telling their side of the story, telling why this is important and needs to be an admissible part of the trial. So those are the tell people. So are you an ask person or more of a tell person? Now, also the second question that will help determine this is, do you focus on the task or people first when you first start your day? Typically, it's the first thing you like to do. If you are given a choice, what would you like to focus on first? People activity or task activity? Now, if you are a task person, it doesn't mean you don't like people. And if you're a people person, it doesn't mean you get nothing done. It just means, what do you naturally lean towards in a work environment? So once you've picked that out, you'll have 4 quadrants. So the task people and the people, you have the top and the bottom. And then the indirect, the slower pace, the more the ask people are to the left, and the more direct, fast paced tell people are on the right. So D is for dominance, I is influence, S is steadiness, and C is conscientious. So this is a really great way to identify which one did you go to the most. Some of us have some areas like, well, it was kind of, a little bit C and a little bit D, or a little bit S and a little bit C. There's all these different styles that you'll actually see when you take a behavioral analysis that will show up where there's usually 2 things that are your strongest natural styles. Occasionally, some people will have 3. Mostly people have 1 or 2 that are very, very, very strong. And this is what we're going to be talking about, each of these behavioral styles, and understanding more people-focused versus more task-focused, speed of activity and speech, slower paced versus faster paced. And we'll go ahead and get started. So fun. I love doing this. The way that I like to determine which behavioral style is which is using doctors, because the DISC behavioral style does not schedule, don't have any sort of way of looking at intelligence, nor does it have any way of measuring for integrity. So we are going to assume that all of the doctors that I'm talking about today are of high integrity and high intelligence. Okay, we good? Awesome. So a high D driver behavioral style is like an emergency room doctor. It's all about the task and getting it done. So an emergency room doctor is going to stop the bleeding. We're moving quickly. Go, go, go. Task and tell. This is what needs to be done. We're telling people what needs to be done next, and the results, moving people through the emergency room, moving people to a specialist if needed, or sending them home if needed. So task and tell, solve this problem, next, next, next. They move quickly. High Ds tend to ask the question of what needs to happen next, what needs to be done, what is happening, having an assessment of things so that they can figure out how to problem solve and move on to the next thing. High Ds tend to wear dark colors like black. High Ds tend to be a bit understanding of the big picture. And they also are focused on the task of what needs to be done. And not so concerned around the how, not so concerned about the process, really concerned about bottom line results, bottom line, bottom line, bottom line. You'll hear bottom line and what words out of a high D. High Ds can be perceived very aggressive. They can seem very cool, and that they take a little while to put down their guard for relationships. They are extremely fast paced. These are the people for realtors that are in your listing presentation that are 3 minutes in saying, okay, looks good. What's next? And you've only gotten to maybe 3 pages in your listing presentation. At this point, you need to stop. You need to stop, have them sign the listing agreement. Say, what's next is we sign a listing agreement. And I sign the listing agreement. And once you have the listing agreement signed, I say there was a couple of other items that I would like to share with you that I think might be important as far as you understanding the process so that we can move quickly, because they're all about speed. Like, oh, okay, great. You can go back to your listing presentation and cover any key items you want to make sure they understand before we get things going with putting their home on the market. These are how you can explain to a high D person why they need to know these things, because it will move things along faster. It's all about speed, 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 and getting it done for the result that they're looking for. A high influencer is somebody like a pediatrician. The pediatrician is going to be inviting everybody into the room. I've been to doctor's appointments with my own children at the pediatrician's office, and there seems like there's 4 or 5 people in every room. It's the more, the better. High eyes believe it's not a party until they get there. They're the fun factor. They're super, super creative. They're moving quickly. They get great ideas and get things started, and then they're moving on to the next thing. It's all about speed and people, connections, relationships. Is everybody going to have a good time? Is it going to be fun? Highly positive, highly optimistic. High eyes tend to wear a lot of bright colors, like pink, and like to stand out. They like the attention and recognition. They also like the opportunity to create some energy around things. So this is where you're going to need a high eye to make sure that the company picnic is a lot of fun. And they're going to make sure that the fun factor is absolutely there. High eyes tend to ask the question of who, because it's all about the people for them. High eyes, Achilles heel is sometimes that they will overcommit because they like to please, and they also like to be a part of a bunch of different things happening, that they think they can go from one event to the next without actually having to account for things like travel time or traffic or things like that. My sister accuses me of having a teleporter so I can get to event to event to event. So yes, I'm a very high I. I'm also a high D. And so this is where you're going to be interacting with a high I. You're going to have a lot of fun talking about all the fun things and how was their weekend. And high I will tell you all sorts of things about their lives without you ever having to ask. And sometimes with a high I, you may have to say, hey, it was so great catching up. Now let's talk about what we came here to do. And so having that opportunity to step up and let them know that, hey, we're going to get through some of the boring stuff so that we can get you onto your next adventure and have more fun. That's very helpful and very important to a high I. High S's are actually a larger part of the American population are high S's. I always think of a high S or steadiness as somebody like a general surgeon who has a team of people working with them to help them throughout the surgery. A high S is somebody who wants to maintain the team environment to be very, very positive. They want to maintain harmony. Harmony is very important to them. The team and everybody's feeling good about the team. And because of that, they don't like a lot of change. They're worried that somebody might get upset if there's change in the team and it's going to bother somebody. They are fantastic listeners, incredibly loyal, amazing team players, patient for days, until they get really, really frustrated. Then they blow up and they look a little bit like a D when they they blow up. The high S is somebody who's going to ask why. Why are we doing that? Why are we changing it? Why are all of these things happening? So they're also the ones in a meeting that aren't saying very much, and they're observing everything. So if somebody in a meeting is not speaking up, you may want to say, hey, Joe, we wanted to get your opinion on what's going on. And they've been watching this the whole time, so they will give it to you. They will tell you their opinion. And they'll very, very cautiously because they don't like to ruffle feathers. And they're the ones that are going to make sure that the team is in harmony. If you're worried that something is off with the team, you might pull a high S aside and have the conversation. In a sales situation, a high S prospective client is going to want to know that everybody's going to be okay, that we're going to all take care of each other together, and what's going to be done to make sure everybody is taken care of in this process. A high C, a high compliant, high conscientious person is somebody who is like a brain surgeon. This picture is in black and white on purpose. They tend to be black and white thinkers. There's a right and a wrong way. Their favorite question is how? How is this going to happen? High C's are brain surgeons. Accuracy over speed. I want my brain surgeon to be a highly compliant doctor, please. I want them to take their time with a brain surgery, because there is a right and a wrong way to do brain surgery. There's a right and a wrong way to make an elevator or bridges. All of these things are really important. So the perfectionist component of the high C profile. High Cs are people that are going to read the entire contract line by line and have questions. Them understanding the risks of things is what makes them feel safe. They understand the risk, it's a calculated risk, and they're ready to move forward once they understand and feel safe around any of those risks. A lot of people will get a little put off, like, why do they need all this data? They just do. So your responsibility is to get them the data, and it's usually more important to get the accuracy, not the speed. So say, hey, that's a great question. This is what I think the answer is. I'm going to call our attorney or call the legal helpline and find out exactly what the answer is and get that to you by tomorrow. Is that okay? And most times it is. It's going to be okay. And so you want to have the understanding that they will be happy with getting the accurate data, more importantly than the speed. So you're going to see these high compliant, high conscientious people are the ones that are making sure that everybody is safe. There's a safety aspect to every decision that they make. So here's a little pop quiz. We've talked about the D's, the I's, the S's, and the C's, the driver, influencer, steadiness, and the conscientious. So I want to see if you are able to tell which one is which. So Schroeder is a musician, and there is a right way and a wrong way to play the notes. And yes, he's a very high C, highly compliant and conscientious. Charlie Brown is a good man. Charlie Brown takes care of everybody. Everybody likes him. Yes, he's a very high S. Snoopy dances on tops of buildings. He is most definitely a high I. And Lucy is going to tell you where to go and how to get there. And so Lucy is definitely a high D. Now, here's the thing about our behavioral profiles. None of us can see the picture from inside the frame. And often this is how I feel about my behavioral profile sometimes. So I'm going to tell you a story. When I was running a large real estate office, it was a very challenging time. I was really, really busy. We were hitting all of our numbers. We were being very successful on paper. And I felt like we were doing great. It was a challenging real estate market. I was having a lot of things on my plate, and I had 3 kids at home. And so it was just a challenging time, and I was rocking it. I felt like I was really rocking the plank until my assistant manager came in and looked at me and just said, Katey, I love you. I thought, uh-oh, what's coming next? And guess what? I wasn't rocking the plank. The staff was mad at me. I was ignoring some of the agents in the office. I was so busy taking care of the busyness of the office that I wasn't taking care of my team, and I wasn't taking care of the agents who had come to work for our company. And so I needed to actually reassess how I thought I was doing based on my perspective and my behavioral profile of getting the results and results and results. And the results were awesome. The people, the harmony in the office was not awesome. So I had to pay attention to that and work a little bit harder to make sure I was in fact planking versus the drowning elephant. Tony Robbins has a free DISC analysis, so that's an option for you to do that. I offer DISC behavioral analysis reviews of your profile. If that's something you would like to do, you can find that space on my website. And also just wanted to remind you about persevering. That sometimes with our behavioral styles and communication, we don't get it right the first time. This is a cross outside of Santa Clara University, which is my alma mater. And he that shall persevere to the end, he shall be saved. And so we need to persevere. Hey, if you understand your own behavioral style and then know that somebody you're communicating with has a different style than you do, you're going to have to persevere. You're going to make some mistakes, and that's okay, because we never, ever, ever want you to give up on your goals and becoming a better communicator. So if you'd like some additional support with sales training, development, team building, or one-on-one coaching, feel free to reach out to me or go to my website, coachkatey.com. Make it a great day.